Well, leaving no one behind is what we know, but this one is about Don't Leave Us Behind, struggles of LGBTQI+ refugees and asylum seekers. Ooh, that
Right.
just gave me the chills, actually.
Yes, while Thailand is often seen as a welcoming destination for LGBTQI+ communities, many refugees and asylum seekers continue to face uncertainty, invisibility, discrimination, and lack of legal protection.
Exactly, and that's very much about refugees. So the session aims to spotlight live realities and explore how communities, organizations, and governments can work together toward greater protection, dignity, and inclusion.
Yes, and to begin the session officially, I would like to invite Kun Klaus Dick Nelson, Co-Secretary General of the Asia Pacific Refugee Rights Network, or APRRN, to provide an overview of the network and its work across the region.
So I would like to ask everyone to give a big hand to Kun Klaus Dick Nielsen, please.
Is it working? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. I would actually like to listen more to the violin than this talk, but we have to get on with it. So my name is Klaus Dick Nielsen. I'm from the Asia Pacific Refugee Rights Network. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the situation of refugees and other people on the move in this region. So first of all, I would just like to thank APCOM and the Dutch Embassy for inviting us for this event. And a couple of words about the Asia Pacific Refugee Rights Network. We were founded in 2008. We are a network of 320 individual members and organizational members. Very proud to have 3 Thai-based members with us today, which you'll hear about and from a bit later. And we do networking, advocacy, and capacity building and strengthening in the region across a lot of issues, including on particularly marginalized populations, such as LGBTQI people. Meaningful participation of people with lived experience that is diverse and intentional is a cross-cutting theme and approach of our region. And therefore, I'm very happy to see one of the speakers after me who comes with lived experience and will talk about his experience as an LGBTQI person in this region. A few points about the high-level issues in the region regarding refugees and asylum seekers in general. Asia Pacific is home to some of the world's most acute and protected refugee situations, where millions of men, women, and children have been driven out of Myanmar and Afghanistan by conflict, war, and instability. 2 of the largest populations of stateless people are also in our region. And we just got some figures from UNHCR, the UN agency, the other day, and around 17 million forcibly displaced people in the region we have at the moment, and stateless people, and also internally displaced people as well. So we're talking huge numbers here. Unfortunately, the human rights context and dynamics in most parts of this region are not very good, in particular for refugees and other people on the move. And under that category, particularly vulnerable groups such as children, women, and excluded populations, including LGBTQI people on the move, or rainbow refugees, as we call them as well. Most countries in this region have not signed the Refugee Convention, which is the international protection framework that many other countries have. There's a few, and Australia and New Zealand, which is also in part of our region, have signed the convention, which gives some protection. Well, actually a lot of legal protection. Some of the human rights violations that take place daily include lack of due process, forced returns, torture, detention, and denial of the right to health, housing, and education, and livelihood. So a majority of the people on the move face multiple barriers that hinders them to access their basic human rights, access to services and opportunities to reach their full potential in this region. So what does it mean to be an LGBTQI refugee here. So, I mean, first of all, the violation, fundamental violation of human rights is a prime factor. There's no legal protection, very limited legal protection in some cases. We see instances of arbitrary arrest and detention, exploitation and discrimination, and exclusion. I would like to talk a little bit about what we could call structural exclusion. As a refugee, vulnerable persons on the move, and as a minority within the minority. So, with the notable exception of Thailand and Taiwan, we know that being an LGBTQI person in this region can be very difficult, and congratulations to Thailand, of course, for legalizing same-sex marriage last year, which is a great thing, at least for Thais. When it comes to non-Thai nationals, it's a different story, which we'll hear about a bit later. And a little bit about the impact on this group, which I'm sure we will hear about later as well, is first and foremost invisibility. A lot of people remain invisible. I mean, simply because they fear to come out to talk about their identity, both in their country of origin, maybe before they leave, country of transit, and country of destination. Often they have to hide their identity also because of very conservative family structures. And therefore, it follows from that underreporting of human rights abuses is a big issue as well, because people they fear to go to another authority in a country that is not their own, afraid of reprisals, nowhere to go, and fear of being deported, which we unfortunately see in this region, that some governments, some countries return foreigners in their country. So the number of this population could actually be a lot higher than we know, because people are sort of living underground. Also, sexual and gender-based violation really is a big issue as well. It impacts transgender women and women from intersectional backgrounds, including non-binary and lesbians as well. And the last thing I want to highlight is the issue of mental health. In general, when we talk about protection of refugees and other people on the moves and situations of vulnerability here in this region, or in general, the focus on mental health of refugees has been under-resourced, has been under-focused, but we are now seeing that there are more focus on it, and in particular for LGBTQI people on the move or rainbow refugees. It is a huge issue, and this is something that APRRN is pushing to get more funding for and to focus more on. A couple of examples of what we are doing in APRRN. Am I doing all right with time, or do I have to? Okay. So we have a governance structure. We are a member network. So 3 of the members are here today, and it is them who decide what the organization is going to do. So we have one specific working group on women, gender, and diversity leadership. It is the chair is Ryan from the Equal Asia Foundation, and Nemo, who is the founder of Sisterhood, an organization in Indonesia, and they drive with the members the work on this particular issue in our region. And this working group has a legacy of leading the work on gender, equality, prevention, and responding to sexual and gender-based violations across different platforms. I also think what we're doing generally in APRRN is that we are an authoritative contributor, influencer, and agenda setter at the local, national, and regional and global level. And when it comes to LGBTQI refugees, we are able to bring sort of very local issues to the national, to the regional, and to the international level as well, and put the issues in different policy and advocacy forums, for example, in Geneva or New York, so we can really bring the local to the global. We also want to emphasize again that people with lived experience have to be at the front, right, and center of any discussion when we're looking at solutions and identifying issues. We see that there is still a tendency to have people with lived experience sort of as an ad hoc, ticking a box kind of thing, and we are adamant and insistent that people have to be part of the discussions from the outset to implementation, and that group of people has to be diverse as well. We don't want to see the same people all the time. And then lastly, we continue to advocate for a cross-border regional approach to these issues. It is not something that a single country can look at on their own when it comes to refugee protection, and in particular LGBTQI. We are calling for different countries to work together, but unfortunately what many countries in this region do is to look at the issues through a security lens, and so human rights sort of gets in the background. And again, as I said before, because many countries have not signed the Refugee Convention. And then lastly, also the narratives, the public debate on these issues, and we can take Thailand here as an example as well. It is, there is very little focus on sort of what refugees in general bring to the country. They're more seen as a burden rather than an asset, and people who can contribute to the economies and societies in which they live. Of course, commending Thailand for its recent access to work for refugees, to some refugees in the camps on the border to Myanmar, absolutely, and we are hoping to see other countries follow suit, but there's still a long way to go. A couple of more things, and then I will stop. In New Zealand, which is also one of our countries, we have worked for to ensure that the annual quota of refugees that the country takes in will have a number of members from the LGBTQI community. So my Co-Secretary General Hafsa Tamisuddin, who is based in New Zealand, and some of you might know, has been working with the government, and we have submitted various documents to ensure that LGBTQI refugees will be part of the quota that are coming to New Zealand in the future. And lastly then is what we also do, and what is very needed, is capacity building and empowerment of people in particular with lived experience who work on this issue, to create safe spaces and to feel that they can actually have a say, and that they must have a say and should have a say. And then funding, very importantly. I think a lot of us work in this sector, in particular since a certain gentleman in the US of A pulled the plug, and which resulted in a lot of underfunding in our region in general. And so funding for this is a huge issue for all of us, that there needs to be a lot more money, in particular to LGBTQI refugees, which is still understudied and under-recognized in general. And lastly, I think also as a network, so we are one of the networks, and there are other networks, we need to be better to work together as well. Again, it's difficult in this particular time where we are competing for resources and everything, but if we think bigger and come together and look at these issues in a more comprehensive way, we might also get a bigger pie and a bigger slice of that pie all together. So I think I will stop here just to say that if anyone would like to become a member of APRRN, I'm very happy to talk afterwards, and you can be an individual or an organization member, particularly if you're from the LGBTQI community. So very happy to talk to you about that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Big hands. Thank you very much, Kun Klaus Dick Nielsen. On a side note, I was interpreting the other day for Airbnb.org. I'm not announcing anything for them, but I think that's another partner, a possible partner, because they are providing shelter through their Airbnb network, and they do provide funding to, well, they are providing funding for BMA this year for people who, not funding directly, but to give credits in case anybody needs. And I think they focus on refugees as well, especially refugees about to repatriate it to the third country. So that's an option for you to consider, because they're a philanthropist, philanthropy organization, and that's another venue for you to look at. And that will be an interesting topic for you to consider. And thank you again. And we'd like to invite next, who are we inviting?
Yes, Kun Midnight.
He's holding a mic.
Right.
Okay, so Kun Midnight will come back and share APCOM's work supporting LGBTQI plus refugees and asylum seekers across the region.
Okay, please welcome Kun Midnight ครับ
ขอบคุณครับ สวัสดีครับ Good afternoon, everyone. So I just want to talk a little bit about APCOM's experience in terms of supporting the LGBTQI refugee and asylum seekers in Thailand and across the region as well. Just to let everybody know that next year, APCOM will be celebrating our 20th anniversary. We will work across the Asia-Pacific region, but we are registered in Thailand as a foundation. And our mission is to improve the health, rights, and well-being of the diverse and dynamic communities that we serve. So APCOM wants to see a world where people of diverse sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, and sex characteristics can fully participate in and achieve sustainable development in all aspects of their health, rights, and their well-being. We started off as an organization that were calling to governments, calling on to the multilateral organizations to invest in community-led services, particularly around HIV and also sexual health services. And since then, since 2007, we've expanded our work to also include LGBTQI economic and social inclusion. I know that a lot of us want to forget what happened in 2020 because of the COVID pandemic, but that was how APCOM started our emergency fund called the APCOM Passion. So this was started by our own staff actually giving up their own salaries to contribute to the immediate and flexible assistance to the most vulnerable members of our community that were experiencing difficulties during the COVID-19 pandemic. So the funds were used to provide essential supplies like food, water, personal protective equipment, as well as to ensure uninterrupted access to critical medical service and healthcare services. So our APCOM Passion Emergency Fund came actually from our staff, and then it was expanded to include the communities to contribute to that fund. And then in 2021, what happened? So more issues hit our communities. Firstly, it was the Taliban takeover in Afghanistan, and that we actually helped support some of the community members to be linked to emergency assistance and to get to safer places. And then we also have the Myanmar military takeover as well, where then we had to help and support the communities who were crossed over into Thailand and to find safety and to be relocated. So those emergency funding actually helped to support the communities at risk. And since then, we have been able to expand that support to other communities as well, including asylum seekers and refugees and other forcibly displaced people who are now seeking shelter in Thailand. But actually, since last year, when Thailand had the opportunity to be the first country in Southeast Asia to have same-sex marriage, we were inundated by reports and also requests for support from South Asia, from Southeast Asia, but also from further afield like in the Middle East and also in Africa, asking for support because they are LGBTQI. And they think that Thailand will be the safe haven for them. APCOM doesn't have all the resources, and this is the very reason why we became a member of the Asia-Pacific Refugee Rights Network, APRRN, which is the leading regional coalition working to protect and promote the human rights of refugees and protect all people on the move. We are also a part of the Queer Forced Displacement Initiative, an international network of, to advance protection for LGBTQI people. And through these networks, we are connecting the dots to ensure that linkages to resources, expertise, and services are there for communities that are most at risk. So I want to say thank you to CAN Myanmar, Asylum Access Thailand, the Jesuit Refugee Service Asia Pacific for being here this afternoon to share your expertise and experiences. as an organization that have been working with and for the most marginalized group, we also must ensure, as Klaus mentioned, to include that there are interventions that will support LGBTQI people, that there are advocacy for the protection and the human rights of LGBTQI community at large, and lastly, to ensure that emergency and financial support assistance, including resettlement programs for LGBTQI refugees, asylum seekers, and other forcibly displaced people are there and is accessible. I also want to say my last word to Klaus and also to Hafsa, who are the co-secretary generals of the Asia Pacific Refugee Rights Network, for accepting APCOM as a member and for co-organizing this session. We're very proud to be part of the network. We're also very proud to also be able to co-host this session as well. ขอบคุณครับ